Hello and welcome to Free Cheese episode 457. I'm your Joe Dix, joined by Mark Augustiniak.
What's up?
Matt Selner.
Hello.
The Free Cheese is a weekly video game podcast about video games brought to you once a week by thefreecheese.com. Every week we talk about another game. We rank it on a list that we call the list, which you can follow along over at thefreecheese.com/the list. As Season 10 continues, with NBA Hangtime this week, the Midway Classic. More on that one later. I'd like to ask, to kick us off here, Mark, I need a color.
Orange.
Matt, I need an animal.
Penguin.
Who?
A penguin.
Okay, I thought you said pangolin. Got it.
That will also be cool.
And then, this sucks, but I asked myself in my head for another color, and the only thing I thought of was yellow because I have this here Game Boy Pocket right in front of my face. So, our new Baltimore basketball team, since we don't have one, is the Baltimore Penguins with a rocking color scheme of yellow and orange, which that's going to look fantastic together.
You could probably make it work.
Yeah, it could happen. It fits because so far all of the sports teams in Baltimore have a bird. I think. Yeah, 2 for 2. We don't have any other. That's it.
I mean, we're not including college, right?
No.
It's too many
Not like
colleges.
horse.
Then you start with, there's like 7. Who's a college and that's not a college? Does Johns Hopkins count? There's too much there.
Yeah.
Yeah, not fun.
Wait, is Baltimore Blast? Does that count?
It's a league. It's a team.
Yeah.
We also have
It
an
is.
arena football team, don't we? The Brigade. I think it's the Baltimore Brigade.
Hmm.
We don't? I said arena football. That was guys. Sorry, I got some outside insight there. That was wrong. Had to make a correction.
Oh. How dare you?
Sorry, listeners, beat you to it.
So this week we're talking NBA Hangtime, which turns out, I didn't know this. Did you guys know this is a sequel to NBA Jam?
Wait, later in life I did.
No.
I didn't know it until recently. I didn't even think about it. And I probably played it at the time. I know I played it at the time, and it is very much NBA Jam 3, but I never connected the dots.
Oh, I'm dumb.
Like,
I
whenever,
just learned now.
well,
Congratulations.
well, like, you know how like we would go to like 2D arcades sometimes,
Mm-hmm.
and like I would see that NBA Jam arcade machine, but I would always think of Hangtime. I'm like, that's Jam. What? Like, I've never seen Jam prior to seeing those arcade machines or something, or like always hearing of it. And I was like, maybe Jam is like the arcade version and Hangtime is the home version, but now I know it existed before that.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah,
No, that whole EA Sports thing got me all messed up with this. I thought NBA Jam was developed by someone else, which was going to be a big gripe of Hangtime going into this. Oh, no.
time to rethink. So the thing with Hangtime is it was intended to be NBA Jam 3, because you had Jam, you had Tournament Edition, and then Hangtime. The name change happened because the license for Jam stayed with Acclaim, and then Midway developed this guy here. So NBA Jam first released in arcades April 16th, 1996. We are mainly discussing the Nintendo 64 version here. That was the one that Mark added to our list. The Nintendo 64 version, actually quite an early release for N64. January 97 was the release date. The Nintendo 64 in the States released September 96. So this is just a few months after launch. Developed by Midway, the Nintendo 64 version was developed by Director's Cut International, published by Midway, and of course related games NBA Jam Back of the box quote for you, straight from the Nintendo 64 itself. Hang on for the time of your life. Soar through the air and slam one home against the big boys. This game rocks with special moves, burning hoops, and high-flying double dunks. That's right, double dunks. So there were a couple things that were added to this game over NBA Jam, but I guess to set the stage for someone who's not played either of them, 2-on-2 arcade-style, fast-paced basketball. And at the, I think, height of basketball's popularity in the United States. I don't know how you guys... we'll talk about 90s basketball in a little bit. But I think that this was capitalizing very much on that movement. I mean, I think everybody was relatively paying attention to basketball in some fashion, just with the Chicago Bulls. Like, you couldn't ignore the Chicago Bulls. And it seemed like everybody had a Charlotte Hornets jacket.
Yes.
Yeah.
My brother, yes.
I don't think anybody liked the Hornets or followed the team or knew any players, but everybody had a jacket.
I didn't know the guy, but there
jacket.
was, when I used to be a church boy, there was always a man, because, I don't know, for some reason, as a family, you have to sit in the same pew every Sunday. Like, I don't know what happened there, but you was sitting in the same pew pretty much.
You got your spot, man. When I go to the
yeah.
movies, I want to be right back to the,
Anyway, gentlemen, like 3 rows ahead of us always had Charlotte Hornets starter jacket on in the church.
As it should be. All right. Might need to go to Goodwill after this. But NBA Jam, 2v2, you got to select from a handful of players. So these were digitized real version, or, digitized versions of real human beings inside of the game. And it was, NBA Jam had a wide enough roster. It was certainly not the full NBA roster you could choose from. You choose between the two, and it's kind of I think the thing that was notable about NBA Jam was you had stat tracking. So that was in the arcade where you could enter your name and it would keep a record of, your stats, which was kind of neat. And they carried that into the home versions as well. You had On Fire, you had Turbo, so you could kind of move very quickly. If you performed well enough, you would be on fire. You were kind of unstoppable at that point. And I think the big thing that everybody remembers of NBA Jam, outside of the announcer, of course, is the over-the-top dunks. And I think you got to really start to see the theatrics of basketball really get animated in a way that you didn't have prior to NBA Jam. So they come out with Tournament Edition, they add some tweaks, they modify gameplay, and then they make Hangtime, which of course is where we're at today talking about. And Hangtime kind of takes all of that. They do add some new things. So they had spin moves. They had the option for alley-oops, which this is the part where I must have played Hangtime as a kid, because I specifically remember alley-oops, and that was not in Jam, apparently. Like, my memory is that I always just played Jam, but I remember being able to do alley-oops, so I must have been playing Hangtime. And then double slam dunks. So the double slam dunk here in Hangtime is when you are going to dunk and then pass as you're in mid, like before you hit the rim with the ball, you can pass and another player can double dunk. There's that, and then doing that or a successful alley-oop can trigger team fire, so everybody's on fire rather than just the one. I think that kind of sets it up. The other big addition that we had in Hangtime is character creation. So outside of just keeping track of you as a player, you could also make and modify characters, and you would increase your stats over time. Like, the better you did, you could earn stat points and apply them to the point where you could get max stats if you played long enough and well enough. But yeah, so Mark, you've added NBA Hangtime to the list. And I do not know of Mark to be a basketball boy. Or rather, like, I think when we look at the list of games, like, I would have assumed I would have put this on, not you. So why NBA
Fair.
Hangtime?
Well, as a kid, I was actually very athletic, or try to be. I played football. I played baseball. At this point, I think I was playing basketball, even though I was mostly like second string for most of these sports or a bench warmer or something. But even like outside of recreation, the park right by my house, you know, we'd always have a group of people, neighborhood kids, just playing, mostly football, but sometimes basketball as well. So, and then having one of my brothers also just be a big sports guy, that was, you know, it was always just within the realm, and I've always enjoyed those activities. But playing that game, was super fun back then, especially with, you know, playing with friends and family, and just the ridiculousness of it all. And I don't know if Space Jam was out yet at this point, but I'm sure it's within that zeitgeist. Yeah, so it was basically, I haven't played this game since I played it on the 64, and I remember back then, I feel like I knew how to do so much, and then, like, this time around, it was, man, it was rough. It was rough for me. Mostly because I'm now starting to realize back then, I think I only played it with cheats. I think I'm not sure if it was Game Shark or if we had like a tips and tricks magazine and we knew what numbers to put in before the match started, or like any special names you could put in that could load special things. But I knew it was definitely cheating. Like, I remember Turbo being infinite. We had big head mode. We were max stats on all the characters, and of course, I did this time around. I did create a character. Like, I tried to recreate what I made before. I think I made a couple characters before, but the one that stood out the most, I picked the basketball head character because I was a sucker for mascots, and that looked very mascotty to me. And his name was Spanky, because I just loved that announcer saying Spanky. It was funny to me. Yeah. And little side thing real quick, that is the root of when I would play Halo. I'd have a pink Spartan named Sergeant Spanky. It came from that.
It's because of NBA Hangtime.
Yeah.
I love that.
Yeah, just like having the sports announcer, just everything he was saying, it was all coming back, and it's still iconic. I definitely misheard a lot of what he said. Like, I'm assuming he's saying face line leaner when you're doing a certain shot from like the side or something. I never questioned it. I thought he was saying face line wiener. For the majority of my life up until this time that I played, I'm like, oh, he's saying leaner, isn't he? But I'm so... but in my head, it's just face line wiener?
I would pay money to see you at a Wizards game. Be like, oh my god, he hit the face line wiener.
Yes, dude.
That's NBA Hangtime in a nutshell, is face line wiener. And, but, you know, yeah, I think I enjoyed that game with cheats. And I don't enjoy it without cheats. It was a very frustrating time. I could never beat the first team, the damn Grizzlies. And, like, every time I would get close to beating them, they'd beat me by, like, 1 point or something. I tried so many... Like, I was pulling my hair out because how annoying this AI was. And it was just bullcrap. But I did enjoy the game for the most part, though. Like, just as a concept, whatever. Like, it is easy to get into. I feel this is probably... Because this wasn't an arcade game too, right? Or was it just...
Yes.
Right.
Yes.
I feel like they didn't change anything for the home version. I feel like they just ripped it straight from the arcade machine because you are timed on every little damn thing. It's like, you can't be in that menu for more than 20 seconds. And you're like, oh god, alright, this is serious. And numbers
they kept that stuff too accurate.
Man.
At the same time, though, as somebody who recently spent 3 hours with a character creator for a game that's not even out yet, I think having the ability to hurry the player along into gameplay is good, because otherwise you can get lost for quite a bit.
Yeah, like,
but yeah, it's very quick.
Yeah, like you have 3 minutes to make a character.
Yeah,
that's not okay for me. You know how long I take to make a character. But like
now in the original arcade release as well, you were also paying $0.25 per quarter in the game. So like if you wanted a full game, you'd have to pay $1.
Yeah, and like it was hard to remember a lot of controls. Like I couldn't do half of the stuff that I used to do. I feel like it's like not fighting game controls, but there's that level to it where like the direction you are versus how you're doing a shot or something can determine a lot of things. And I never performed a double dunk in my life. Even back then, I've never performed a double dunk. I've always missed the alley-oop signals. I always try to shoot it from full court or half court. And just, that's it. You know, and I always push people over to try to steal the ball, or I would just stand there and just waving my arm back and forth. And what was the other thing? Oh, I would accidentally push my teammate. I didn't know you could do that.
Yeah.
I was like, oh, there's friendly fire in this game, I guess.
If you want to be a real sadist, you can enable goaltending. One of the 3-digit codes you can put before loading into the game is to turn on goaltending. So if you really want to hate yourself and have a bad time,
it's like a default. Like I wish I could turn it. I didn't know I could turn it off or whatever. But like,
or whatever it is, you can flip. Yeah, but
because half the time you're jumping for it, and it's like goaltending, and it's like my ass game. Like,
yeah, sorry. Then I said it backwards. Yeah, you can disable it. There's a 3-digit code. Which
that probably wouldn't have been as frustrating.
That's another piece too. You mentioned the codes and playing with cheats. This being developed by Midway adopted the Mortal Kombat input style of that kind of 3-digit locker code, combination code where you would enter specific things to unlock features in the game.
I think Gauntlet had that too, or something similar.
Yeah, there's like a big head. There's a big head. There's
Blitz
a couple other ones in there.
Blitz. That was another one of my favorites.
So you had not really played NBA Jam. NBA Hangtime was your jam. Matt, how about you? NBA Jam, Hangtime, any history with either of them?
I think I played more Jam than this, if I remember correctly. But I really didn't play a lot of basketball games back in the day. I think we said it ad nauseum here. Like the 3 sports I pay attention to are hockey, baseball, and football, and there's more than enough games to keep me entertained there in those realms. So the little bit of exposure I've had to this, I always thought these games were like fun for like that first half. I feel like I would have got my 50 cents worth out of it, and like I don't need to play the rest of this, and like move on to like the next cabinet or whatever. Yeah, I don't know. I just never really got into this franchise or whatever. Like again, it's fun, just not. I don't know. Yeah, I think my thing here with this game, and I didn't have the opportunity like I have a Perfect Dark. It's kind of like thinking about it, like playing with friends. I think that's where this game would shine. Because there's not really like a single player progression mode besides trying to win games to increase your creative player stats. That was something that I always liked about NFL Blitz 2000 was at least Blitz 2000 had a season mode that kept track and you can try to win a Super Bowl or whatever. I don't think the first Blitz had that either. But like, yeah, like cool. Like I put in my hypothetical 50 cent or dollar into the N64, and like that's it, and like kind of everything resets. And I was kind of, I don't know. In sports games, I used to like a season mode or a franchise mode or something to kind of encourage you to keep playing and progress. And this just didn't have it. But again, that's all right. I think the in the moment fun can be had. It's just I'm not staying around too long.
Yeah. Simpler times.
Yeah. I do remember like playing a lot with my brother, playing a lot with neighbors and stuff. Like that was always the fun of it. I think the thing that I noticed years ago, a couple years back, first returning to Jam, I think like every time I get a new way to play Genesis games, I kind of go back and I rebuild my catalog of what I had, and I try out the things I remember playing. And going back to NBA Jam, I remember being like, man, this feels like so small and slow and different, and it didn't match my memory of it. And then I'd play Tournament Edition and it feels a bit faster, and then I play Hangtime and it feels a little bit more but still not quite. And I think it's exactly Mark's point of like, I think we had Tips and Tricks, the magazine. We opened it up. We knew to turn on Infinite Turbo, because that was when I felt myself having the most fun with Hangtime this time around, was when I would get the ball, sprint to the opposite end, and then right from the paint, hit the jump button to just dunk. And that, just repeating that cycle over and over again and trying to like swat the ball away and just stay alive and keep the ball, like to rack up a high score. I think that was where it was most fun. And then
it's like, if you could
character creation, I mean, you can do some weird, dumb things in this, so you end up with a really silly, weird looking game.
Yeah, it was like a lot of those characters that you could pick, a lot of them seemed like they were either like developers or their kids, or you could just be like some weird spirit Halloween costume.
Exactly. I tried to find the kid that had I wanted to find someone who had the closest resemblance to a mullet. There was one kid who kind of had it, but not quite.
I think I know what kid you're talking about, because I was trying to make a kid. I was trying to make a player out of that kid.
I wonder how they are now.
I mean, that's got to be somebody's first date fun fact.
Yeah. No, but like, you could tell back then. Back then, it was real easy to entertain me. You could tell from my taste in games.
But I think like those little elements of this game make it memorable in that way, right? Otherwise, I mean, it's a fun basketball game, but I think it's those little bits like that just do give it extra flavor that you otherwise wouldn't have. And I think the stuff like being on fire, the slam dunks, the alley-oops, those things.
The face lines.
Yeah. I did revisit Jam this time around just for comparison's sake. And the announcer in NBA Jam is a bit more emotive with the like, he's on fire. Like, it just seems so like, I don't know, aggressive, and he's very excited, where this, it was just like, obviously he celebrates when you're on fire, but
he's phoning in.
It's different
a little bit. It's just getting the paycheck now.
It's not that. It just feels like it's been reined in for a reason, right? Like they just they wanted to tone that down so that you focused more on the game. I don't know.
I have a question about Jam. I'm assuming it might not have it because you said that excuse me, that this game was the first one to have like the double dunk or whatever. Because I don't know if it happened outside of a double dunk, but sometimes when I would see the AI going to do their dunk or whatever, it's like, it's insane. They're jumping from like half court or some crap. It's taken like 10 years to like finally fall down from the sky. And they have like a Tarzan scream. Like, oh, and like whatever.
Yeah.
Like, did Jam have that type of sound effects?
If it did, I didn't recreate it this time around, just kind of revisiting it. So I don't know. But yes, those are the exact things I'm talking about. Like, that just kind of add all that flavor and nuance to this that make it memorable. Like, I'll say that Jam definitely still had a lot of the sound effects that are burned into my brain. Like, the sound of swatting a ball away from somebody is there in Jam. It's here in Hangtime. Like, just those little sound effects that just are ingrained. Yeah. The other thing, we talked a bit about the roster of the game, where Hangtime expands it quite a bit. There's like, I think it's 5 selections versus 3 selections per team, right? So when in Jam, you could you could choose one of 3 players from each NBA team. This, you can choose one of 5 players. Where it's still like in my memory, I don't know, it's kind of weird, I guess. Especially if you look at the Bulls, like, you did think of like, right now, can any of you name one of the Chicago Bulls team members besides Michael Jordan, Scottie Pippen, or Dennis Rodman of
Damn
that
it.
era. Like, so in a way, Jam was kind of accurate, where like there really were like a handful of select superstars that you knew across the board, and that was like it.
Yeah, I was trying to find
playing the game also.
Jordan or Shaq, and they weren't in there. I was like, okay, that's all I know.
Was Steve Kerr on that team?
Jordan. Ooh, see, I don't. How am I supposed to know? I only played NBA.
No, because I think I used the Bulls and I saw Steve Kerr, and I said, I don't need Dennis Rodman. I do Scotty. Yeah, I think I used Steve Kerr.
I think there's like
I need to look up the roster.
Right. I think like looking at the tier list, I think Pippen was like one of the top 5 to use out of that whole game.
For sure.
Even though he didn't help, it still didn't beat the Grizzlies. So, thanks, Scott.
But I think it did like reinforce the idea of like a limited roster of players in my head for some reason.
I don't know if I'm making this up or not, but for some reason I thought you could change the color of Dennis Rodman's hair in that game. I don't know if it was like a number input or something, but
put in 420 as a locker code and you probably could do it.
I did look up the codes, and I don't remember seeing that.
I don't know if it was like a button prompt as you're picking Rodman or something. Like you have to hold in certain. I for some reason that just came to me. I didn't try to do that before. Could be making it up, but that should be a feature. If not,
so I did bring up the rosters. One, I was right about Steve Kerr. So.
There you go.
Point for me.
Got one.
Point for me. They were mixed, so not every squad had 5 players. Some had 4. Some had the original 3. I think those are very bad teams that just did not have anyone. But like the Indiana Pacers have 3. Atlanta has 3. Cleveland has 3. Oh, what's that? Oh, poor Seattle.
Mark confirmed.
What?
While at the team select screen, go to the Chicago Bulls, and when Rodman's face is on the screen, press pass to change his hair color.
Yeah,
Great. That's great.
Good job, brain.
Yep. So I ended up playing a lot on Genesis this time around, actually. I know that the N64 game was the one of choice, but I played a good chunk on Genesis and was surprised at like how well it ran and played, and still it wasn't, the audio is better on the N64 version, and that's, closer to the arcade, but it still plays well. It's fast, it's fun. And I think that is kind of I don't know, that was one of the interesting things about this one, is like that it translated across multiple control schemes. It translated across multiple controllers. Like, you really just needed to be able to run, pass, and shoot. But like that turbo button could be mapped to whatever. There's something core about this game that I don't think a basketball game has captured since these games, which is unfortunate because I feel like they were so iconic, and I think they did, like, to get into the 90s Chicago Bulls. But again, like, I think that 90s basketball, I think it was an era, right? Like, even though I never played on a team, you did, Mark, right? Like, was that because of stuff like this? Well, you mentioned it was kind of like
I'm sure it just played a part. I'm sure like just pop culture might have played a part, but I think this was shortly after I did football, and a lot of those teammates were doing basketball, so I just kind of followed suit with them.
Yeah.
But I didn't stick around for a full season though, or whatever you call it. I do remember that, and like it was weird because like, man, I think I have a photo somewhere, but like my head was like super buzz cut. Because of football, because I needed to like put on a helmet without it being painful.
Matt, yeah.
And we didn't even have jerseys. It was just like T-shirts with like whatever printed on it. And I was like, all right, it's kind of lackluster. I'm not feeling like I'm on a basketball team or something.
Yeah.
But yeah, it was like between that and again, like I brought up the whole like Space Jam hype going around, and I think even before that I played a basketball game, and funny enough, it's Super Nintendo and it is Looney Tunes, and this was before Space Jam, but they had like a street basketball game.
Oh, yeah.
And I think that was also like a 2-on-2, like same layout, similar to Jam and Hangtime, what have you. But yeah, and like, well, I forget how many movies were coming out too that were like basketball related, whether it was like kids movies or Air Bud or
oh yeah, Air Bud,
stuff like that.
Yeah. Again, like it was that era where I think it was just like very. It kind of permeated the culture in a way that it doesn't now. I think there's definitely a basketball culture now, but it was like everybody knew about basketball. You know what I mean? Not that everyone knows it exists now, right? But like it was just kind of like you were relatively aware every year. Like I have in the last, I don't know, 10-ish years, a little bit more than that, adequately paid attention to basketball, like the NBA, and I could not gun to head tell you the last 5 championship winners. Couldn't do it. And like I definitely could in the 90s.
Than you think.
Huh? What'd you say, Matt?
I said it's easier than you think.
Well, yeah, it's probably just the Celtics or the Warriors, which is where we're at now.
Warriors,
I know
are
last
most
year
of
was
them.
different. Yeah. Which, you know, that too, like I guess, I don't know, maybe it was no different than the 90s, but I feel like basketball now is boring in the end, right? Like I have not watched any of this finals because I don't care about either of those teams. It's the same that it's always been. I
think you're onto something there. I think like back then, everything was more focused, right? Like trends were more focused. There was just only like maybe one or like 3 big things, and then everything else just wasn't as exposed or got around. But now we're always, you know, like information overload. We're at that point.
Yeah.
So it's like that focus on like something being in the spotlight is just like, it's just not really as big of a thing anymore. Like, I feel like with me, after basketball, it was skateboarding.
Yep.
Right?
Yeah,
like that whole wave, though, you know, we talked about that,
yeah.
But
no, dude, I mean, honestly, like that kind of is so perfect. You don't even realize it. I remember we had a basketball hoop in the neighborhood that we would all play with, right? Mm-hmm. Like that was the thing you did. But then when we turned to skateboarding, we literally knocked over the basketball hoop to use it as a rail. Like that, it really was like one thing to the other. And it was kind of like, But I remember like actively practicing, and it was always video games that led to it. Like this got me into wanting to at least play like just kind of around the neighborhood. NBA Jam was the one that got me to actually start to learn technique and practice things. Like I remember Jam, I was like, man, look at all the cool stuff they can do with the ball. I want to do that, and really practice like all of the between the leg moves and all of those things and fun, you know, whatever, which led to high school gym class where we would see if we could, I've told this story before, but I'd have a friend, or I would run, throw it at the half court, or throw it from half court to bounce off the backboard, have somebody catch it, and then we're just trying to recreate the moves from the game. We just did that stuff all the time. It was so stupid. I think even like me getting back into basketball in the last 10 years was that year that NBA 2K put, well, one, there was the NBA Jam from EA that came out. Mm-hmm. And then there was the year that 2K put Jordan in a game, where like that whole thing where they did like the story mode was like Jordan's career mode. And it was like a big whole thing about him being back in a video game for the first time in however many years. But I think like that was the one. I remember that game came, what was that? 2K11, I think. And
sounds right.
So that would have been out like in the fall of 2010, and I remember watching basketball that whole season, because that was a season that kind of like, I remember it was like the big tsunami and or earthquake in Japan and the NBA. Like I was watching both simultaneously back 2011, so it must have been around then. But I think again, like it's always been video games that have done that. And the unfortunate thing, and the part where I miss games like Hangtime is, I tried playing 2K22 because it's on Game Pass, and I tried playing it a couple weeks back. One, the creative character was that was an interesting outcome when I utilized their face scan technology. But beyond that, I couldn't enter my actual last name, which I get, I understand, but also like, dude, come on. Yeah. I can't put it in, like, something strange about not being able to press start to skip cutscenes where a sideline announcer is telling me about NFTs. Not making that up. I can't skip that stuff to actually play basketball. And then I can't put in my actual real last name. There was just like enough where I was like, all right, this game's not for me. You don't want me to play basketball. You want me to spend money, and that's fine. But I miss the arcade style. And I think that there's some games that have tried to go back there, but they don't always do it the way that I'd want it to happen. I don't know. There's just something that this was actually like a welcome. Like I was happy to uninstall 2K22 and jump right into Hangtime again.
Yeah.
See, I think this is like the tiny bit of age difference between us, because like I think everything you just said about Hangtime was that way with me for NBA Street. I want to say like NBA Street is the first time I really sink time into a basketball game, and then I find myself playing around the neighborhood a little bit with some friends. And just the way we're doing this, right? We're revisiting games that we put on the list. Like, I think it was a little unfortunate. I really hadn't played this one, and I sunk hours and hours into Street. And then the entire time I'm playing this, I'm just like kind of clamoring and wanting Street, and this never really hit it. And it's not this game's fault; it came out before Street even existed. But that's kind of was like my debacle going back to this.
Yeah, I remember that game being huge too. But I was already out of it at that point.
They should make good basketball games again.
Dude,
I'd be happy with it. Honestly, I kind of want to just revisit that 2010 NBA Jam. Because I looked at, I didn't play it this time around, but I did look at a trailer for it again just to like get a refresher. Like, what did they do with it when they came back to it? And that one, did you play that one, Mark?
I remember seeing trailers for it, but no, I never played it.
It's part of backwards compatible on Xbox right now, the 360 version. I don't know, maybe we should all play that one, but you can straight up, I believe, for every team, one of your character options is the mascot. So it's nice. Right there, ready to go for your needs and requirements in a good basketball game.
I have a dumb.
Is there? I guess.
I have a dumb, unrelated question for Mark. Did you ever play mascot mode in the NCAA football games?
No, I never.
Okay.
I think
maybe I gotta do us all a favor for the possible list next year.
The only football games I have ever played, if it wasn't a Madden game that my brother had, then it was Blitz, and the ESPN football game we played earlier this year. So unfortunately, that's basically all I've done. And Tecmo Bowl. But yeah, it's funny because like I used to hate mascots. Like if I would go out, like my mom took me and my brother to a basketball game. It was like a local basketball game. And I just didn't want to go. I just hated I didn't want to go anywhere. I just wanted to stay home. And like I had just gotten glasses and I hated the glasses I was wearing. I was just not in a good mood. And this mascot comes up to me and like is trying to like I guess make me laugh or smile, like waving, whatever.
Trying to get you
and like
up.
I'm basically in the front row of these bleachers, right? There's like a rail in front of us, and I'm just like crossed arms, just like meh. I think I was probably like, I don't know. I want to say like maybe 12 or 13, something like I don't know. No, wait, no. If I had glasses, that's 6th grade. So that's 10 or 11. Yeah, don't matter. Anyway, I flipped them off. I just gave him the finger, and like, my mom was so appalled. And like, I think we basically left shortly after because I was being such an asshole. But yeah, like I didn't want mascots acknowledging me in public. Something about it. I just hated it. But in video games, I love it. And if anything, I always want the mascots to like fight each other in any way possible. I always want them to like hurt each other.
That kind of stacks up with, I think, your childhood feelings toward them. Now you're just, realizing them in a different way.
Of what?
Just, I think your hatred for them, now you're able to make them fight. I can connect those through lines somewhere.
Well, I got to the point where it's like, I even had the thought of even being one. Like, if a team or whatever, like, wanted the mascot, I would totally dress up. I just like dressing up and just being stupid. So it's like, I
got to do that one year. Did I ever tell you that?
No, I don't think so.
I wasn't a mascot for a team, but it was like the cousin of a friend was running a charity for kids, and I don't know what happened. I don't know if they just like found these costumes or rented them or what, but like, I guess all of the people what were supposed to dress up bailed, and it was a last minute, like, can you guys help out? Or cousin asked my friend, do you have any friends that can help out with this stuff? Because we're kind of in a bind. So we went downtown and it was summer. I remember it was hot as heck, and we wore these like we were inside of costumes. Like, I don't want to lie and tell you I was SpongeBob, but I think I was SpongeBob. I know there was Barney. I forget. There were a bunch of different ones like that, but it was like sweaty. I remember being very uncomfortable. And the weird thing is, the thing you don't think about being inside of a mascot costume is that children will touch you. Like, yeah. Yes, you've got the ones that will sit in the bleachers and give you the finger, but like other ones will try to finger you. It's a very weird situation.
And I'm sure your costumes weren't like officially licensed stuff.
No.
Right?
These were
Were they?
These were like legit, like.
Oh, so you weren't
the SpongeBob one was this huge thing, and I remember like you could only see out of the one eye. Okay, I did do SpongeBob, but it's coming back to me now, like where you could see. But the bizarre thing was, you've got no visibility of your surroundings, and you really aren't aware of your physical space that you're taking up, and so you got to be careful. You usually have to have a handler to walk you around to make sure that you're not bashing into one thing or another. But the bizarre thing is, like, you're walking and you just feel something grip you out of nowhere or multiple nowheres. And it's just kids running up and grabbing you, and you don't even know, you don't see. So you just kind of have to like loosely try and pat the top of a head and do a quick wave and then whatever. But yeah, there's that. I remember there was like a Red Ranger. The Red Ranger was not a great costume. That was just kind of like a flimsy Halloween costume. The helmet was good, but yeah.
I was hoping you would be like Absorbent Robert or something.
Who the heck is that?
It's the knockoff of SpongeBob.
Oh gosh,
I don't know.
Yeah.
Is there a mode that you would wish existed in Hangtime? Because it's very cut and dry, you know. Like
it's pretty straightforward. I mean, they do have like the. Yeah, no, I really do like just core arcade stuff, but to Matt's point, I think that I had the most fun with this game when I was playing with people, and I think it was intended to be played that way. Like, you can play AI, but it's tough. So honestly, there's no way, and this is the problem with modern video games. There's no way they could pull this off. But if they could take this ROM, add netcode to it, and dump it, this would rule. It would rule. But there's so many licensing problems and whatever for re-release.
It might exist in a way.
Oh yeah, I'm sure that there's like things you can do with
Well, I think the arcade 1-up cabinet might have net play. With some of their games, they add that feature. I don't know if that is neat. One of them, but
yeah,
but that cabinet has both jams and Hangtime.
Yeah, is that still? I'm gonna look that up and see if you can still buy that cabinet because
like the newer cabinets, they start to incorporate more online stuff, and it's usually just like leaderboards or something. But some games you can actually like join up with other players or go against them or something.
That rules.
I thought this game could use something like Horse. Horse was...
Oh, okay, yeah.
Horse was something that, like, me and, like, neighborhood kids would always play because we knew we weren't, like, super good at basketball and dribbling long distances and trying to do all those things at once. Or, like, you just want to play Horse, and it's like, all right, and then we just try to think of different ways to do that. But the way that this game does tricks with like the alley-oops and the double dunks and everything, I thought that it would be cool to try to like mimic that and land it or something like that. I don't know how well it would be pulled off, but I'm sure something like that could work.
I didn't think about that, but that's a good point. Horse was always fun. It'd be tough to pull off in this. Like,
yeah, probably.
I think you'd have to just be forgiving with the position you were in. Like, as long as you were in a small area or whatever.
That's another thing that I wish this game had. Like, it was cool. Semi-pointless that it had markers for when you're off screen. Like, okay, cool. I think it's only good to know if you're at the top or bottom of the screen, but regardless of how far away you are from the other side of the court, it doesn't really tell you or indicate it much. Like, I don't know if that arrow gets bigger or smaller depending if you're getting closer to the frame.
I didn't notice that it did.
But I was like, all right, but I kind of wish there was a shadow underneath of you when you're in the air, because I can't tell if I'm right in front of the hoop when I'm trying to block a shot. I'm trying to guess it, and usually I'm like above it or something, or like I'm further to the back or something. Then I realize it's like, man, if I just had that little indicator of just like,
that was tough, and I don't know that was better in the arcade version or not. You know what I mean? Like that. I don't know if it's one of those things that was a trade-off for it being home console or. $550 arcade 1-up NBA Jam,
average
which
price.
Includes all 3 games. Comes with the stool, and it is Wi-Fi enabled, so you can play online.
Oh, so it does have net play?
Yeah.
Cool. Yeah, I think that was one of the first cabinets where they started incorporating the light-up markings as a thing.
Yeah, it looks really neat. I don't know that I want to spend $550, but
yeah,
I'd probably get really good at NBA Jam if that were the case.
Yeah.
Think something I think I would add is, besides the netcode stuff, I think that's the obvious like thing, right? But like I don't know, thinking of it like the single player thing, like do something similar to what NBA Street did, and I might be ripping this right from it, but like do a battle of like create a character, get Joe Schmo as teammate, and then like as you defeat teams, and you can start in like whoever was considered the worst division at that time, like the division where the worst teams, or bracket it out or something like that. Go through them, and after every 5, do like an all team of the best 2 of that team or whatever, and then when you win, pluck one, and then you build your team like that until
that's good, yeah.
Until you get to like after you complete all the divisions or these tiers or whatever, then you get like the best 2 players, and then like these midway created super god created characters that are like all 99 overalls or whatever, and like that's like your ultimate like test based on your
I don't think they have
I think that's what NBA Street did, though. I think I ripped it right from there.
Yeah, but I like that. Like, Hangtime doesn't really have, like, a team maker, and I'm surprised that they don't. Where you can just, like, incorporate your own little roster.
Yeah, you can change your costume to be a...
You only have 1 minute to make it, so...
Right, Then, please, like, oh my god. I think the time was... Me and Time, man, it's just, like, you got, like...
So one of those.
I'm a real stickler with that.
We make fun of NHL and Call of Duty and all that for copy pasting, slapping a new number on it, but maybe that's what they did with this cabinet. They hit the port button in Unity and N64. All right, here you go.
It's funny. I didn't even know back then that Hangtime was on other consoles. I thought this was a 64 exclusive thing. I didn't know it was on PlayStation or Sega or what have you. But I think the 64 was fresh too.
Yeah. Before we get into the ranking, do you have a favorite basketball game?
Well, I thought it was this one. Cheats enabled is probably this one.
Yeah.
I haven't really played many outside of the ones that I mentioned earlier, and which is kind of sad. I think I would definitely give Street a try at this point. Heck, I would even try Backyard Basketball at this point, or whatever it was called, like just Backyard Games.
Yeah, I think
or whatever. I'm kind of curious about.
Yeah.
Pick Pablo Sanchez to be the best player every time. Probably Street. From what I've played, although those, I mean, Street's probably more my vibe, but like. Those NBA 2K games, like right around that Jordan era, are very good, and I had a lot of fun with them. Not just like playing them, but I always love the franchise mode in this. I think 2K. That's the one thing 2K still does a really good job of in these games is the my GM stuff, and especially like letting you customize it how you want it to be, like how strict or how open you want it to be or whatever. But yeah, no, just. I like going through those as well, like the newer 2Ks. But
just reminded me. I forgot that Mario Hoops exists.
I tried that recently because I wanted to try it. It's got a black mage from Final Fantasy in it, so I was like, I kind of want to play this game, and it's stiff. It's weird, but it's not bad. It's
a cool concept. It's like I wouldn't think to have Final Fantasy characters as like.
No. And honestly, playing Mario Strikers after it just launched Friday, I kind of wish that Strikers was a basketball game and not a soccer game, because I realized while playing it that I don't really love soccer. It's fun. I'm not trying to take anything away from it, but like if it were a basketball game, I would have played it a lot more this weekend.
Yeah. I think the closest thing I've been playing to a basketball game is Phasmophobia. So, in like the lobby hub area, when you're picking the map you want to play and everything, it takes place in a garage. That's like your headquarters before going out. They have a hoop in there, and and two basketballs and a little counter, and you can just shoot hoops while passing time if you're like waiting for friends to like ready up or what have you. And I think when you hit 666, like some weird sound effects happens. Or whatever, like lightning strikes outside and all this stuff. And but in VR as well, you can do it in both VR, non-VR. But it was cool to like kind of cheat the system. Like if you would like shoot it from underneath the hoop, because it didn't have I don't think there's a net. It's just a hoop itself. But you can keep pushing it through underneath the hoop back out, and it would come back in, and it would count for 2 points. So I would just keep doing that. So I think I'm at like. I wanted to stop at 669, but it stopped at 670. I was like, damn it. That's the most basketball I've played lately.
You also have Overwatch.
I think a VR basketball game would be good. Oh, yeah, Overwatch, yeah. I guess Splatoon has that kind of basketball mode.
Oh, yeah.
With the clams or whatever, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, Clam Blitz. Well, let's move into the ranking of NBA Hangtime and get this guy on the list. Listeners, if you want to check out the list as it is now, you can do that over at thefreecheese.com/the-list. There's always the awkward part for the listener because we stare at the list.
Yeah.
Think hard on where this thing ends up.
I guess my my most favorite things about Hangtime, I do appreciate its simplicity. It's just mostly a 3-button game. Get into it for a little bit. It has a lot. It can have high replay value. But honestly, my favorite part about this game is the audio. The music and the voice lines and the sound effects have stayed with me up into this day, and it is why I even put it on this list, because I keep thinking about it, even when I'm not trying to think about it. Something always reminds me of it for some reason. And just the vibe that game had also just resonates as well. But so I guess it's more of a nostalgia factor more than anything, but it definitely is a little, maybe too arcadey for a home port, because the whole timer thing is, I think, a big detriment to it. And I'm sure it could use some fine tuning here and there, so I don't know. But yeah, I only enjoy this game with cheats, I found out. I can't play this
they're
without that.
They help a lot. Or at least, if you play long enough to get your character stats up.
So I think this is on the lower half of the list for me, out of the 21 that we have currently.
Yeah, I don't think it climbs too high, but I do like this a lot. Ah, boy.
I'm looking around, I'm definitely looking around, the bottom 4. It's somewhere in there.
I just don't...
I'm not, pissed off at this game, but it just seems to make sense of where it goes compared to what we have on here.
I'm looking at, for me, I think it goes above Sunset Overdrive. I just don't know if it goes above Stanley Cup. I think it does, but I don't know if that's just because I like basketball more than hockey. I do think that this is just easier to pick up and jump into, and I love the simplicity of gameplay. I love NHL for how technical it was, surprisingly, on the SNES, but something about this is just core fun action.
I would put it above Stanley Cup just for visual reasons. Hangtime didn't make me sick.
Right, that one made you sick. I forgot about that.
That's where I had it at.
Matt, what do you think?
That's where right below Devil's Crush and above Stanley Cup. That's exactly where I had it. I think
easy.
I think the highs. I think what could, again, I didn't get to experience it, but kind of living vicariously through you two. I think the multiplayer is where this game shines. So when it's high, like Perfect Dark was for me. But again, I'm not spending much time in it, but when I do spend time in it, it's fun. It doesn't have lasting power. And it's just Stanley Cup. It's more my vibe, but I know it's not as pick up and play, because you actually kind of have to play that game a little bit more legitimately, which is weird for Mode 7 SNES, but whatever. I think Stanley Cup being above Sunset makes this easier. I think putting it above Sunset would have been a harder discussion for me.
Fair. That's fair.
Well, then I think that kind of locks it in. Check out thefreecheese.com/thelist. Real quick, just to bring us through the bottom 5. Won't go through the whole list, but we got Billy Hatcher bringing up the bottom. ESPN X Games Skateboarding, Sunset Overdrive, NHL Stanley Cup, and now NBA Hangtime just above it. I think it's a nice, solid. Again, I know, Mark, you're very hard on the Billy Hatcher, but I think that...
Yeah.
I will say, the first game, when I was trying to wrap my head around. Also, there was other things going on, but that first game with Hangtime, I was I'm actually had more fun the first couple levels of Billy Hatcher than this.
Yeah, it's okay. Billy Hatcher is technically playable. It's just I'm like a disappointed father. I wanted it to be more. and that's why I'm more hurt by it. That it was more. It's very complicated. But I can see now, compared to like how this list is turning out, it probably doesn't need to be last place. But we've come so far now that it's kind of hard to. I don't know. There's just some.
Hey, there is something else on this list that I think we all know of that none of us have played, but could very well top Billy Hatcher at the bottom.
If it's what I think it is, I hope.
So there it is. Well, that's NBA Hangtime. I really like this game, and I hope everyone else does too. I want to play more basketball games, but I'm gonna grab that NBA Jam for the 360. Play that a little bit again. See how that tastes these days. Until then, check out all of our episodes from this season. We've done 22 of them this season, so it seems. And yeah, we've got a wide variety of video games that we've covered so far. If you've been listening, or you took some time off, or you haven't listened at all, the first, I would say, 13 to 15-ish episodes of the season, we were kind of combining our old way of recording the podcast with the new way of doing the podcast. And we had some different segments and things like that. More recently, we've just focused on the game itself, kind of in a hyper-focused look at a single experience. And we're going to do just that next week with Paperboy 2, a Tengen classic. So come back and hang out with us, ride the streets, throw some papers, scare some kids. Until then, thank you, Mark. Thank you, Matt. Thank you, listener, for listening. Bye.